rebel leader happened to be best friends and went to school with one of the institutional oppressors. Well, I guess, hey, do you want rights? Maybe, fingers crossed, one of your rebellion leaders went to school with the president or something. And maybe they can appeal to their heartstrings. Why don't you just go wander through the desert like Jesus? And perhaps maybe you might stumble on an oasis of a society that does actually accept you. Who knows? Even to reestablish a society after a revolution is so difficult. You're telling me that, oh, well, my best friend is the girl boss to end all girl bosses, so she can do it by herself. You understand? When you think about it like that, it's so stupid. Again, this is a testament to how good the movie was that I didn't realize this until now. Like, hi, hello, my name is Phyllis, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, I watched Wicked, both movies, cried at both because, well, I'm a theater girl at heart and I loved it. However, it got me thinking a little bit more in line around fantasy and specifically the Revolution arc that Hollywood seems to always fumble. I sat with it after, the goosebumps of all the beautiful performances, and I really had to ponder on it. The main takeaway I have from it is if you are not built for that smoke of a revolution, just leave it. It's fine. You don't have to do it. Like it feels like every YA fantasy feels like it needs to have a revolution arc, and maybe, just maybe, you don't? Wicked is a retelling of The Wizard of Oz. It's based on a book that predates it, if I'm not too mistaken, where it takes things from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West, but kind of humanizes her, plays around with themes of good and evil, truths, and who gets to tell the truth. Like, history is written by the victors. It kind of plays into that as well. It follows Elphaba, a girl who was born green, who has a lot of magical potential, and her descent into becoming the Wicked Witch of the West, who it starts with her. She's dead. Like it starts off with her funeral of people celebrating that she's dead. So it basically follows her downfall. We follow her as a child being discriminated against to going to the University of Shiz, where she meets Galinda, which is like the good witch, Glinda the good witch. She meets her, they have a rivalry, and then they become friends, and it just follows her descent into villainy, essentially. That's I think the best synopsis I could get. It's based on a play based on a book. I didn't see the play, so if you're gonna tell me that the play is better, I don't know. I didn't see it. I'm assuming that it's great, but I didn't see the play. But apparently, when the intermission is where they split Wicked and Wicked for Good. But this is my foray into the Wicked universe, and I loved it. So I wanted to use Wicked as a bit of an example of what I mean. The two main issues I had with it were number one, the individualization of systemic problems and solutions, and number two is the aesthetics of rebellion without meaningfully assessing the factors that reinforce discrimination. Those two things are meaningful for us who are fantasy writers who maybe want to include a revolution arc. This is actually why I didn't go down that route, but I'll explain that later. If this is the first time you're seeing me, hi, my name is Phyllis. I am a fantasy writer. I wrote a West African mythologically inspired high fantasy about two sisters, Nikla and Effie, who are blessed by the goddess of fate but torn apart by death, war, and immortal monsters called the Kindred, and the story is about them finding them and the story is about them finding their way back to each other. I have many different videos about that already, but that's the context to which I'm coming in, and this analysis is really thinking about what a revolutionary arc does right and wrong, how you can perhaps write a more successful revolutionary arc, or perhaps taking it out and deciding you don't want that smoke. Up to you. So let's get into it. The individualization of systemic problems and solutions. So we're going to take problems and solutions separately. First problem. In Oz, it is established that the animals, uppercase animals who can talk, are discriminated against. This predates Elphaba and the discrimination that she faces for being green, but she obviously finds a kinship with them, an allyship, if you will, and you see that from the "Nothing truly bad is happening at Oz." Now, am I a singer? No, but did I feel very singery? Yes, I did. But that song specifically shows how animals are being forced out of their jobs, they're being run out of Oz, they're leaving, and this is all predates Elphaba and her ascent into rebellion. But this is all in the first movie, right? That is the background with the whole Grimmery and the wizard. That's the whole background of the story, is that these animals are being demoted and treated as second-class citizens, being pushed out of their jobs, being pushed out of their livelihoods. And that is a systemic problem that has been established for the first movie. Now let's talk about the second systemic problem that's been established in the movie. Cynthia Erivo is the first Black woman to portray Alphaba, as far as I know, and especially to this wide scale. I watched many different videos about how beautiful that story marries with the specific intersection of Black womanhood, which I found very useful. I'll have them, the ones that I watched, in the description. In some way, the Black woman experience has also been like married with that because of who they casted. Like it's just been realized in a more prominent way, and lots of different women, obviously, like myself, definitely related to some of the experiences that she went through. But her as a marginalized person uniquely in an institution that treats her terribly because of her green skin. We don't know if there are any more green skinned people. Apparently, Fierro in the books was blue skinned. Whatever. Alphaba's discrimination on the basis of her green skin. We see over and over again in the first movie how there is virtually nothing that she can do to stop this discrimination. She has to build a harder shell to survive, but there's nothing that she does materially to get accepted. The only thing that changes is the perception because of her friendship with Glinda, which I have problems with because at the end of the second movie, they sing a song called "I Am Changed," and I had to think about it, and I sat down and I was like, why is Elphaba changed from being friends with Glinda? Like, I actually had to think about that. In the first movie, Glinda and Elphaba become friends because Glinda inadvertently helped Elphaba's sister, Nessa, by shooing off a romantic prospect that she didn't want and basically said, oh, go talk to her. And Nessa then influences Elphaba to help Glinda. And because of that, Elphaba talks to Madame Marble and gets Glinda in the class that she wanted, like the magic class that she really wanted to get into. And they become friends because of that. She comes to the Usdas ball where Glinda's played a practical joke on her, given her a hat. That's embarrassing. She wears it because she's like, oh, this is my friend. And she generally thinks that they're friends. And so she's incredibly embarrassed. And I did cry at that dance when she was dancing all on her own. I felt that in my soul. Everyone was like, "Oh, it was a bit too long." I was out there sobbing. I was not okay because I don't know, like that feeling of like having to be strong to the world, having to pretend like things don't affect them. And I thought that was really sweet. Side note, I don't know whether this is a review of just me just saying what I thought, but here we go. Other than the fact that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, their chemistry is insane. I don't actually understand the friendship between Alphaba the character and Glinda the character, if I'm honest. Because yes, Glinda dances with her, but that's only after first embarrassing her. And the most frustrating part of it is that Alphaba doesn't really change anything about herself in terms of like she's still the same person from when they decided to be horribly like discriminatory to her and being really terrible at school to her, like all not allowing her to sit with them, taking her seat, all of that stuff. She was the same person then to when she's accepted is only because Glinda decides on a whim to be nice to her because Elphaba had already sacrificed more. Like Elphaba in the relationship did something that benefited Glinda. Like if you think about it, she got her into Madame Marble's class because she thought she was doing something nice. That's the only real reason why. Like, would Glinda have been nice to her if Elphaba didn't do that? Because the whole one of their big conflicts was Glinda thinking that she deserved to be in that class. Like that's hers, even though she's like, oh, something's wrong. I didn't get what I wanted. Like that never happens. That sort of energy is what she had. It felt like in their relationship it was pretty one-sided. Like again, other than the fact that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, their voices are perfect and they meld together so well and their chemistry is great. So you just kind of forget that in that friendship it was incredibly one-sided. Back onto the point. These forms of discrimination are systemic, whether intentionally or not. Alphaba being portrayed by a Black woman echoes some of that systemic discrimination of both race and gender. And then the animal discrimination in world is a long-standing systemic discrimination. We see that in many different instances, not only with the song in the first movie. In the second movie, they have signs that say no animals allowed. They have legislation that Nessa has to sign as a governor to make animals travel with permits concurrent throughout the whole movie, right? To the point where people start leaving, animals start leaving, right? That's something that they establish as a systemic issue. My issue then becomes they individualize the problem. Let me explain. They tend to play into this great man history trope of like putting only one person as like the leader of a rebellion by themselves. Like I can't even say leader because Alphaba doesn't have any, like she didn't build a coalition. She didn't build a rebellion, as I said for Snow White. Like who is following her? When she tries to convince the animals, there's no one who stands with her, and it feels like they didn't really personalize anyone. Like they had Dulcibert, which is the person who the bear who took care of Alphaba when she was a child and being discriminated against by her father, or her father, if we will. But there's no one who stands with her. Even when the flying monkeys become part of her group, is like they're faceless bad guys. They don't have any real personality. They don't seem to have any real will of their own. And none of the other animals seem to want to stand up for their rights. Everyone just wants to leave, which is fine if you want to leave and escape oppression. But you're telling me no one was the resistance, only Alphaba was the resistance, which is why the start of the movie felt kind of like strange. Bear with me, because again, I did still like it, but here's what I'm saying. Felt like her plan didn't have any legs. The only thing that even showed that she had a plan was that map on the wall where it's like stop the wizard, expose his lies, save Oz. But it felt like she didn't have like an actual formulaic plan. At the start of the movie, she would be just popping up on people, like popping up on Glinda, popping up in people's houses, popping up on the wizard. I was like, isn't this like your biggest op? Like you guys are just allowing her to just pop up in what kind of security does the Emerald Palace have that she can just pop up anywhere? This is like your revolutionary, your terrorist, I guess, who's just running around your palace, able to pop up and have little conversations with people. I was like genuinely confused. They make her the one problem. It's like she doesn't seem to build anything with anyone else. Like with I imagine perhaps there are other green people. I don't know if they ever wanted to explore that, but she never like builds okay with the existing animals. She doesn't build a coalition with them like a real rebellion would be. A rebellion cannot be just one person, but it seems like they like it to just be one person, or whoever else is in the rebellion has to have a connection to Alphabet as a character rather than them having a connection to their own like liberty. For example, the Munchkins start having to have the permit thing at the same time as the animals, right? Because Nessa's on her villain stuff, whatever. Not whatever, but that's very strange. So the Munchkins now have to be now in the same boat as the animals, right? Nobody thought that, since Elphaba is technically a Munchkin too, none of them would there wouldn't be even like the dissenters, the minority of people who are like, hey, let's stand up against this. So everyone else just sat down and took it. Are you serious? I'm genuinely curious because they just made it seem like, okay, there's this discrimination problem about animals, but Elphaba's the only one who cares. Maybe Friero cares too, but it seems like he cares more about her. Like it seems like he cares more about her specifically than like the cause as a whole. Do you know what I mean? So it felt like the problems, like the systemic issues they had, they individualized the problems and made it seem like, okay, Alphaba is the one who cares about this. Why can't, even when Glinda tries to introduce her to the wizard and is like, why can't you just get over this? Let's all just become friends again. I want us to be friends. Even Glinda, you have to start side eyeing her because you're like, you've been in the Emerald Palace. You're telling me you didn't see the monkey being locked up, or if you did, you were like willfully ignorant to it on purpose. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you don't think about the problems in a pervasive manner, right, you end up writing a shallow world where I guess all the characters you want to be good are good and all the ones that are bad. And you don't delve deeper into the complexity and the banality of evil. Because Glinda is definitely part of the machine. When she gets her little. I'm jumping up a little head here, but giving everything to Glinda was just so strange because if you think about all the systemic issues that they already showcased, and the resolution they had at the end, which is basically just give up and leave, hella depressing if you think about it for even one moment, right? Let's talk about it. So, not only did they individualize the problems of the revolution, and then talk about how the same way they were like true believers for like the Wicked Witch of she's so evil, da da da, that whole thing. The same way there's that, there would have been true believers of the animal racism. Like there'd be true people who'd be like, yeah, of course. Why should the animals be here? They should be there. There should have been people. You should have shown that, but you didn't want to. Why? I guess because it would be difficult to show. I don't know. Like maybe it'd be difficult to have the neat ending that you wanted. But again, Alphaba being defeated it would make no difference on the animals' lives. Because at the end of the movie, this isn't a spoiler because it starts with it. Alphaba is defeated or whatever, and the animals are suddenly returned to Oz. Why? Nothing has changed for them like materially. Nothing has changed. Okay, sorry, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Okay. At the end, Elphaba basically entrusts everything to Glinda and sacrifices herself and runs away. Why would that change anything materially for anyone, right? Like, do they know how many like civil rights leaders and revolutionary like third world leaders have been taken off the game and nothing changed? It just actually left their people or their interest group systematically like underdeveloped and discriminated against. So thinking about taking out one person would change the game for everyone and then suddenly we can all live ha 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 makes absolutely no sense. And even if you think about this even logically for even 1 second, you're telling me that discrimination ended because the higher ups, one of the oppressors is actually friends, besties with one of the rebellion leaders, and that's what ended up changing everything for everyone. I can't take you seriously for doing that. Like, you know what I mean? Like Hollywood in general likes to pretend like revolutions are just one person and a gaggle of friends, and then oh, they just get it together. Like I had this issue with Snow White too. I'm like, you didn't build a coalition. Who is swearing allegiance to your cause? Nobody. But they just like to pretend it's one person that can do everything, even though you've already established that there are systemic issues in this movie with the animals and with Alphabet being discriminated against because of her green skin. You already showed her trying to fit in doesn't work. You've shown that anything all her acceptance is predicated on people with more power accepting her. And she decided at the end of the movie, they're not going to hold me down. And as Kiki Palmer said,
That's
I slave him, yes. Anyway, but even leaving everything to Glinda makes no sense to me. Like as I alluded to before, Glinda seems is the type of person, it's been established, that will only do things once they like impact her personally. Again, when I said would she have helped Elphaba if Elphaba didn't get her into Madame Marvel's class? Perhaps who knows, right? Would she have like actually helped anyone if things weren't against the wall? Let me actually point out when she was like, "Oh, this has gone too far." She goes to Madame Marble and says, "We need to stop this. It's gone too far," because they sent out Dorothy and her and Dorothy and the Tin Man to go and kill her. It's like they've been trying to kill her this entire time. What do you mean it's gone too far? What now? And you go to Madame Marble, the one who doesn't mess with you for real, and you know she's gonna tell you to sit down. Like you know when someone wants to pretend like they're actually pushing against it, but they go to the one person they know won't help them. If she was really about it, she would have left the palace already. And everyone kept telling Glinda that she can't be the one to speak out or, people won't believe her. But she never tries to. It's very frustrating. I would have respected her much more if she tried to and lost her position for it. Like, actually, we saw evidence of her losing her position for trying to speak out or trying to do something a different way. But we never did. People just said, oh, you can't. You need to be good so that I need to be evil so you can be good. But she never tries to push against the grain. But then she gets the motion of all motions. It makes no sense to me. And like in the same way we saw Alphaba try to fit in and it not work until she was accepted by people with more power than her, and then her reject that framing at the end of the first movie. We didn't see that from Glinda try something and fail. She only ever did things when it benefited her personally, or whenever she had lost something personally. That was when she decided to take action, and that's the person we decide to entrust the realm to. And then was she a dictator to get animals not be discriminated against? Because you showed Nessa having to sign a position that the other governors had signed about animal permits, which means everyone in the society had got to a point where they believed animals were lesser than them, so they could discriminate against them. You're telling me one person is able to solve that? By what? By what? What power? And she was just as complicit as Madame Marble, but we pretend like Madame Marble is uniquely bad and the wizard got off scot free, even though they were all complicit together in Oz's leadership. But we let it go to the person who has shown consistently that she will not inconvenience herself if it means that she loses power, that she loses the dream. We saw this throughout the whole movie, and nothing, she hadn't lost, like, nothing substantial had changed except for the fact she lost her mans. Like, is okay? But again, instead of showing all that complexity, they'd rather just make Nessa into a surprise villain. Even with Nessa as a character, it was very difficult because they gave her no redeeming qualities, really. She was just like a whiny sister. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize, but it's true. Like she signed into law discrimination against her own people and I guess the animals, which one of them used to raise her as a kid, so maybe she cares about the animals, you would hope. But she signed into law. Why? Because she wanted to keep a man? Again, with individualizing the problems of a systemic problem. It would be more interesting if you showed Nessa having to grapple with, I need to sign this bill otherwise I'll lose my position. That could have been a real gripe that we see her moral complexity rather than giving her this mustache twirling villain edit. Like, what? Because Bach is still in love with somebody he went to school with. Like, get over it. She wasn't into you. Like, and what was his position anyway? So she's appointed governor, and they're saying that there's an anti-animal bill. This is again what I want to harp on, right? You established again at the start of the movie that animals, there was an anti-animal bill where animals have to have permits, right? That this is a bad thing, and that it's been like every other governor has signed it into law, and Bach is like, "You're not going to sign it, are you? Like, come on, don't do that." I don't know why Bach cares, but good that he's a good. That's a W for him, a rare one, but whatever. The fact that it's become a bill means that there's enough public indoctrination or propaganda that animals are bad. There's like, what are the stories they say about animals to push them away? Like, imagine, like, remember Zootopia where they were saying like, oh, the predator animals are like they're gonna like destroy everything or whatever. They're gonna take people out. Like that's at least something that I would understand. But why are they discriminating against the animals? Like, what are the lies that they're telling the society that oh, that animals should be kept out of public life? Like, literally, what are they? What are they? Can you tell me? Because I don't remember. It just seems like they wanted an oppressed group, and that was that. Like, they gave Elphaba more stuff in terms of like why people are scared of her. She's wicked, she's wicked. That made sense, right? But they didn't do the same for the animals, even though the animals discrimination predates Elphaba. Seems like that it predates her, or whatever changed in it, they didn't explain. Whatever change happened in society. Like, is Oz's economy really bad and they just need a scapegoat? Sure, okay, tell me the lies that they tell about the animals. Like, but you didn't do that. Instead, you did this mustache twirling thing with Nessa when you could have done more of like the political background of what's happening. With Nessa, you could have explored why working within the system has roadblocks, right? Nessa is a governor, which suggests there are other governors or there's a parliamentary system at the very least, right? So you're telling me at the end of the movie when Glinda gets to have her little, oh, you're not gonna survive, like she gets to have her girl boss moment with Madame Marble, as if she's not, they're not both complicit in the same system, because you're telling me you lived at the Emerald Palace and you're telling me you didn't see the animal discrimination. You were like, ooh, blind, ooh, come on, girl, come on, come on. I know you saw it and you just didn't care because you said who could resist? We heard you in your song. But regardless, right? When she has that moment of, oh, I'm gonna change things, I wanna be good. Her saying, even her speech to the Munchkins at the end of it made no sense. Oh, I wanna try and be good. No one has even seen you be bad, like in public. The only people who know who you are have left Oz anyway. Was she a dictator to get those things through? Because what power did she have really? Like, is she gonna overrule all the animal laws? Like, is she president now? Did people vote for her? Like, I'm genuinely curious. Because how is it that Alphaba's death means that all the animals can come back? How that those two things? It's a non sequitur. They don't follow. It makes no sense. Because like, do you understand what I'm saying to you? If anything, the discrimination would worsen because that's the way humans like to get down. Okay. To my people who want to write a revolution arc, think about what it means for your characters, right? Because again, it will start to moralize characters to you. Because if you have a character that you consider good, like Linda, or like maybe flawed but still good at the end of the day, you will have to contend with whether or not this character was complicit in terrible things, which Glinda was. But the story never really acts like it or really questions her or punishes her for it. They show her toothless pushback, which is like even more annoying. Even though, again, this is someone who loved the movie, I'm just sitting with it and what I actually thought about that specific element of it. If you want people to be morally bad, go off, which is why I liked Madame Marble, even though they didn't give her a real reason for doing all her terribleness. Like, I liked the whole Lady Macbething of her, like, yeah, and what? Because she leaned into it, she knew what she was doing. Whereas they like to pretend that Glinda was this hapless victim who didn't understand what she was doing, when she, of course, she did, because not only did Elphaba tell her, Fiyero told her. They all saw this when Dr. Dillerman in the first movie was kicked out of his positions. They all saw this, but she was like, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna change the pronunciation of my name. Aren't I a woke queen?" Toss toss. There's no way you didn't know, especially since you have been in power. So either you turned a blind eye willfully when you saw all the spies running around, or what? And then even again to how they got rid of the wizard. Oh, she was your daughter. That changes what? I'm sorry. Did that change something? Do you not know these like there are leaders in real life who chase their own children, blood children, to the ends of the earth because they don't agree with what they do and they speak out about it. So I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, she was your daughter, as if that's going to change something in his heart. Oh, actually, I'll leave. Actually, I'll take this the rebellion part of it was so toothless. You're telling me somebody would give up their entire power? Why? Because they accidentally killed a daughter they have no real connection to? What? Are you insane? I I did still love the movie, but, like, you're telling me that makes sense to you? He gets off scot-free. I guess he goes off into the ether to a different country to go terrorize more people. I mean, is that the happy ending? But I guess Madame Marble has to get locked up in a prison because I guess we hate women. And Glinda's the one to give out this punishment even though they're all complicit together? What? Like, what? She's shown over and over she doesn't put herself at risk, even for the people that she loves. Even them. This whole time they've been wanting to kill and they've been demonizing Elfie. She's had no problem with it because she gets to be good. But I'm telling you this again. If it was played by anyone else other than Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, you would see this as glaring. But because their chemistry is so great and they kind of act like sisters is great, that you forget how nonsensical this is. Like, if you really think about it for a moment, you're like, what? Suddenly it's too far to, oh, they're actually gonna kill her, I guess. She could have talked to Bach. Bach would have listened to her because he's still in love with her, apparently. Yeah, again, to back to what I was saying when Elfie was saying, "Oh, I'm changed by you." I was like, "What? What world are you living in? Like, what did she do to change you?" I guess the radical thing that Glinda proposed was, you know, stifling yourself in submission to feed your own ambition. Was that the radical thing? Like, I can see how Alfie changed Glinda because they kept saying, "Oh, who would be the person to resist this? You know who would resist this, right?" That was the whole thing. But what did Alpha? What did, like? Actually, ask yourself, what? I guess how to toss your hair, how to be popular. That didn't help Glinda. Sorry, that didn't help Elphaba because it wouldn't because she has to play by different rules because she's green slash a black woman. Like working within the system didn't help her. I honestly like why would Alphaba even believe that Glinda would be the one to be able to carry this out? She has not shown any like in her character has not shown this resilience. The only time she comes to find her is when she's kind of lost everything. Her man's left, Marble's being terrible to her, and I guess she just decides to go she could have if she was really about it. If she was really about it, she would have told people to go with her. You're telling me her two sidekicks wouldn't have come with her? You didn't even see them talk to each other again after the little quippy thing they do at the start, like the like comic relief thing. They don't talk to each other. Like you're telling me that she didn't build a group of people that would be loyal to her and change my mind? Why? The fact that she went alone also shows me that she wasn't really about it. That shows me that she wasn't really. If she was, she would have been like openly rebelling against Madame Marble. Because why wouldn't she? Why? In a sense, even her hiding in the closet, it like so like masculinizes or it puts so much of a burden on Alphaba to be the one to do all of this, to sacrifice herself and all this other thing. And it would be fine if it was just a movie. And again, as a storyteller, it would be fine if it's just in a story. But then you see this actually like transposed onto real life like racism against Cynthia or those real life like masculinizing of Cynthia, which I unfortunately had the displeasure of seeing online of people like saying things like that about Cynthia because of how they perceive the character and like perceiving this helplessness on Ariana's character. So it's doubly so that it sucks. Because when you're writing a revolutionary arc, there's a lot of responsibility there. As a society, if you live in the West, we're very far removed from any revolutionary concepts. We live in pretty um like do you understand what I'm saying? We're pretty far from like real life revolution, like seeing it in our eyes. So because we're far from it, it feels like a fantastical thing that's like insurmountable or something for the history books that when you write it, especially when you put in systemic problems like, for example, racism, sexism, discrimination of all kinds, and you don't deal with it in a responsible way, because the ending of the story was just, hey, are you discriminated against? Does your society treat you badly because of things that are you can't change? Why don't you just leave and go to a different society? Why don't you just go wander through the desert like Jesus? And perhaps maybe you might stumble on an oasis of a society that does actually accept you. Who knows? What? What? So there's an incredible amount of responsibility that goes into writing a revolutionary arc that, of course, if you were still mesmerized by the singing, I hope I've, raised the wool over your eyes. I'm sorry, please like enjoy things. But like this was what was going on in my head after I thought about it. I was like, What kind of message is that? That's so terrible and sad. Like for my own fantasy story, this is why I did think about a revolution or rebellion arc, and I decided against it because if you don't want that smoke of the smoke of writing a rebellion arc, don't do it. If you're not really ready to go there, because writing rebellion in any story means it would infect everything. Every single character would have to contend with what they think about it. It would contend with everything, and you would have to upend the entire societal rules you've had your story based in. And if you're not ready for that smoke, leave it out. If you're only doing it because you want the rebel leader to fall in love with the king or something, please just leave it out. Because I'm joking, you can do whatever you want, but you might have people like me asking questions like, oh, you're telling me everyone gets rights because the revolutionary leader dies tragically? Okay. Oh, sorry, no, she's assassinated because the wizard sent someone for her head. Or you're telling me that the animals, the discriminated against party, they get their rights because the rebel leader happened to be best friends and went to school with one of the institutional oppressors? Well, I guess, hey, do you want rights? Maybe, fingers crossed, one of your rebellion leaders went to school with the president or something. And maybe they can appeal to their heartstrings, I guess. You understand when you think about it like that, it's so stupid. Again, this is a testament to how good the movie was that I didn't realize this until now. Like to even effect change within a system takes decades, hundreds of years, like of just so much struggle and pain. Even to reestablish a society after a revolution is so difficult. You're telling me that, oh, well, my best friend is the girl boss to end old girl bosses, so she can do it by herself. It's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like even the 8-hour work week, even the 8-hour work week and the weekend people died for. You're telling me that, oh, well, I, so it might sound like I didn't like this movie. I did, but I'm just like really thinking about it and I'm getting more frustrated as I'm thinking about it. The ending makes Elphaba a hypocrite as well because she told the animals, don't run away, fight. I know it's gonna be hard, but we have each other, let's fight. She told them that, but then she runs away. Is that how the musical ends? Because if that's how the musical ends, I'd have the same smoke for it. And then I said, now, if there's another girl who's born green by some accident, she'll be subjected to the same discrimination that Elphaba faced. The whole point of revolutionary movements, that at least I can discern, is that they make life better for the next generation. You know, as someone who is both black and a woman, the civil rights movement, even though there's loads of people who died, um, you know, that's probably fixture, made my life better than my ancestors. Same with the suffragette movement and same with the womanism movements of black feminists that made my life better. The independence of Nigeria, for example, made the lives of my family better than how our ancestors had it under colonialism, for example, right? The whole point of revolutions, of course, they cost a lot of like human life, but they make things move incrementally. If another girl who's born green with some power is born in Oz, she will be subjected to the same ridicule, except now they'll have some justification, being that somebody who looked like you also did this horrible thing. And it's not like they established that there's a group of people who are green. It just made it like a specifically individual, even the issue of her being green, they made it a specifically like alphabet problem. It's not like she's part of an existing group of people who are green. Even the animals aren't like her. She's one of a kind, which doesn't make sense anyway. It makes sense as a allegory for other things, right? But if there's a whole community of green people, maybe that's what she finds in the land beyond Oz or something. But it didn't move anything. It didn't change anything. And they acted like it did, which is the most annoying part. So again, if you're not built for the smoke of revolution, just don't do it. It's very difficult to nail. It's very, very hard. You'd have to do like a lot of research on knowing what revolutions do to people, how it can make things more brutal, how it can change things, like what strives people within a rebellion. Like there would be so much energy and effort you'd have to do. And if you're not willing to, it's okay. Tap out, say it's too much for you, and respectfully bow out with grace because there's there's nothing more quite like I don't know, a little upsetting is just the aesthetics of rebellion, but it's toothless. You know, I guess that's the type of rebellion Hollywood can sell though, but to us to consume, like if it was actually radical, we wouldn't see it on our screens. I understand. I'm aware. I get it. But still, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking. When it comes to my own writing, I guess that's what the story this should be about. I know it was a bit of chaotic review because I did have a plan. I've just been saying whatever's come to my head. I did write what I thought down, but you know, But when it comes to my own writing, there was a point in time where I had some characters wrestle with rebellion. I guess again, if you're writing fantasy within a like medieval world, rebellion is going to look drastically different, of course. You're not even if you overthrow a king to replace with another king, that's not necessarily rebellion. That's like things that's just typical king stuff. That's typical royals fighting over the crown, and it's fine if you want to do that. That's okay. I honestly, this is again a bit of a questionnaire because I know what made it not sit right for me in Wicked, but I wonder what other fantasy writers do to make a convincing rebellion because I haven't really seen one that I'm like, yeah, that hit the spot. I know we're talking about fantasy, but even if you think about the Hunger Games, the ending of it was kind of was like they had this whole thing where the District 13 people wanted to put the Capitol's kids in the Hunger Games, and that kind of propagates the same myth of like, oh, you can't let the enslaved free because then they'll enslave the slavers, and it's like, no, most people who are oppressed just want to be left alone. But regardless, they did propagate that, and then Katniss ending up by taking out the District 13 president because she's just as bad as Snow. Okay, like it's like you just what I'm saying, like, all right. So I don't really know if I've seen something really get it right or get it. I don't know if right is the right word, but understand or encapsulate some of the complexities of what a rebellion would mean. I don't think I've seen it, um, and I because I haven't also seen it in real life. Like I haven't been immersed in, Nina Simone says like an artist's job is to reflect the times, to reflect the culture. And what does it say about us that we have stories that can't really encapsulate what a rebellion would look like, what actual pushback would look like in a time where it seems like we need it the most to know, to have ideas of what pushing back would look like, right? So I guess I'm gonna end this video by posing a bit of a question. Like, do you agree with me? Do you have do you have different thoughts about Wicked? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Have you even seen the movie? If you haven't seen the movie, please go and see it. I'm so sorry I've ruined it for you. I didn't ruin it for you. But genuinely, I'm curious, like, what did you think about the rebellion in Wicked? Because that was, to me, the weakest part of the movie. Because it felt like Alphaba didn't have a full it felt kind of disjointed, you know? She just felt like she was popping up here, popping up there, popping up everywhere. And it was like, why are you here? What was your actual plan? To write in the sky that the wizard lies? Okay, girl, you're telling me you don't have a printing press? You don't have a blog that you can disseminate this information through? Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Like, if you want to do a real rebellion, you have to do things like that. Right? You do. You do. You have to think about what it would mean for the society to upend the status quo. But it seems like the status quo just returned to how it was, really, with a couple tweaks, or the things that had to be tweaked they didn't want to deal with. Again, was Glinda a low-key dictator, to get the animals free? Because again, if it rose to the fact that there was a bill against the animals, it means that society was willing and primed to accept the subjugation of the animals. And you didn't tell me why. You just said something bad is happening, but you didn't tell me why. Like, even if it's not true, there are lies and stereotypes that regimes have to put in place to make a society okay with that amount of discrimination, right? Because even the Munchkins, you're telling me, like, how does it make sense that the Munchkins, their governor, is the one who put in restrictions against them? What? Like you're telling me there wasn't a protest of Munchkins ready to riot? What? Like when they were doing, oh, the witch is dead thing. I'm like, you're telling me that should have been a protest against your governor. I guess she would have been passed by then. But you know what I'm saying? Weird, strange. This is running a little bit too long, so thank you so much for watching and hearing my unfiltered thoughts about Wicked. I hope that you took away some things if you're thinking about writing a revolution arc or rebellion arc. Tell me what you thought about this. Do you have questions that I have? What kind of things do you think are important to include in a rebellion? And I hope that this sort of gave you some questions to maybe ask if you're thinking of including a rebellion or dissent or uprising in your fantasy stories or whatever book or genre you write if it's dystopian too. But let me know what you think. I don't know. This is quite a taxing topic because again, I'm still thinking about the different pathways my story can go in. It's not like I would be opposed to writing rebellion. It's just that I know the many pitfalls of doing it and the amount of research I have to do. That it's just it's risky territory that can leave people wanting. And that's not to say that I didn't, ultimately enjoy Wicked because I did. This was just analyzing things is the way I show love to things I like. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and follow me on all my social medias, all linked down below. It's Phyllis Writes or Phyllis.xox on most things. Um, yeah, comment what you thought. I would love to get a little bit of a conversation going. And that's all from me, and I will see you in the next video. Yeah, bye!